Today I'm going to show you the materials that I use as well as my step-by-step process for the late winter seed starting here at the Grateful Ambition Homestead. Let's get started. We're going to lay out our materials first. So we have our tarp laid out indoors because it's cold outside, and that tarp is to ensure that there's no mess on my bride's wonderful carpet. We are also going to add our seed trays and our soil to the tarp. I'm using Miracle Grow today, and that's just for seasonal availability. I have 2 or 3 varieties I like to use, but really what it comes down to, and here's your pro dad tip, is find a potting soil that will feed your plants for 3 to 6 months. Depending on the weather, sometimes I have my seeds in their containers or even their up potting containers for 1, 2, or 2.5 months, and I don't want them to run out of food, and that'll assure the success of your seeds. We're also going to lay out our seed trays. This is the most popular design here at the Grateful Ambition Homestead because they're super space efficient and you can water from underneath. Although my onions, I use more of a Tupperware container style setup, and that's to help with removing them and putting them in the garden. Now, this is a great time to recruit some help, and so I have my little helper with me, and she is going to show you the proper technique for adding soil and sprinkling seeds, so make sure you're taking notes. As you notice, when we're spreading our soil, we're just brushing it across the seed cells until they're full to the top. We're not compressing that soil, and that's to maximize our water retention and space for root growth. After that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to organize our cell rows with popsicle sticks and permanent marker, and I shorthand the varieties I plan to put in each row. If I'm using one whole cell tray, I only use one popsicle stick, and that just saves me time. Once we have our cells organized with our popsicle sticks, we're then ready to lay out our seeds. Now we have our cold weather varieties and some flowers that just take a long time to get started, and most of these are surface sow seeds, and so this makes it a really easy process. As you notice, my little helper is being very intentional about where she sprinkles her seeds in each individual cell. We are conservative with our seed use, but we're not stingy. And what I mean by that is we want to make sure each individual cell is going to germinate for us to increase our productivity. So we usually, if we can help it, put 2 to 3 seeds in each cell. Now with the petunias, and we also have some snapdragons that we'll be planting today, their seeds are like dust. So we just do a very conservative sprinkle across our rows that we plan to start our seeds in, and that's the best we can do. One example of where we do compress the soil a little bit is for our spinach. The spinach has a thicker seed coat, and so we will compress a slight indentation into each individual cell. Then we'll sprinkle those spinach seeds across the top and then brush a very thin layer of soil on top of those seeds, and that just aids in increasing the amount of water that those spinach seeds can gather in order to germinate. Once we have all of our seeds laid out and they're organized, I like to do a little tactical redundancy, and what I mean by that is I don't put all of my broccoli in one tray, because if something were to happen to that tray, let's say it dries out, or let's say I'm trying to move it and I trip over the dog and then there goes all my seeds. There goes all your hard work. So mix up your varieties in each individual tray or each individual tub, and then that way if you have a problem, you haven't lost all your work. There's 3 pieces to my indoor setup that are crucial to maximize your germination and your seed growth once they sprout, and that is your lighting, your timer, and your heat mat. So let me explain. Your lighting, make sure you get designated grow lights. If you use just soft white lights, it's not going to give your seedlings the spectrum that they need to start off. And if you have weak seedlings, you're just going to be playing catch up and trying to recover these 6 seedlings the whole growing season. I will also have a timer, and that's to help with automation. So my timer starts and stops my grow lights. Now the heating mat I have found to be extremely helpful in shortening the time it takes for my seeds to germinate, and then it also improves the growth rate of the plants. The heating pad is essential for those warmer climate varieties, so all the peppers and tomatoes and ground cherries. If you grow eggplants, that would be another good example. You need to stay on the watering, because if I skip a day, then the heat pads will dry out my seedlings and they'll die. The last thing that I do aside from watering is I'll rotate my trays to distribute the light a little bit better once the seeds have sprouted. And I'll do that every time I water, so about twice a week. And that just allows my seeds to kind of grow straight and strong and have big stems that are ready for the garden. If you have any tips and tricks for seed starting that I didn't mention and you're like, hey, this is essential, please put them in the comments below so I can learn from you. Thank you for watching our late winter seed starting video on the Grateful Ambition Homestead.